Imagine this. A high-tech American company, one that's been riding the AI boom, filling data centers with its powerful servers, valued at tens of billions of dollars, suddenly finds itself on the brink of collapse. Supermicro, a name once synonymous with innovation in AI hardware, is now splashed across headlines for all the wrong reasons. Accusations of accounting fraud, 2 auditors jumping ship in just 2 years, delayed financial reports, and now the cherry on top. Sales to Russia, one of the US's biggest geopolitical rivals. What happened here? How did a company that claimed to have cut ties with Russia since the invasion of Ukraine end up with trade data showing a spike in exports and millions of dollars worth of its technology potentially in the hands of Russian military-linked organizations? To understand the full scope of this scandal, we have to start back in February 2022. Russia's invasion of Ukraine shook the world, and in response, the United States imposed stringent export bans, specifically on high-performance computer components that could be used in military applications. Companies supplying tech critical to national security were forced to cut off any business with Russia. Supermicro was one of them, and publicly, it complied. The company announced that it had halted all sales to Russia and said it recorded no revenue from the region since the invasion. But behind closed doors, something very different was happening. Shortly after those sanctions were in place, reports began emerging that Supermicro's exports to Russia had, in fact, surged, a 3-fold increase to be precise. According to Hindenburg Research, the short seller that has since published an explosive report on this, Supermicro managed to maintain and even grow its business in Russia. But how? Well, that's where things get murky. Hindenburg claims it reviewed over 45,000 import and export records, showing that Supermicro was using shell companies to disguise the final destinations of its products. For example, initial sales were routed through a California-based distributor. Then as scrutiny tightened, new intermediaries began appearing. 3 recently established Turkish shell companies, to be exact. One of these companies was eventually sanctioned for smuggling restricted items to Russia. And it didn't stop there. Supermicro's products also ended up in Russia through a newly formed Hong Kong-based entity. Almost $30 million worth of Supermicro's high-tech components reportedly flowed through this entity to one of Russia's largest importers of dual-use technology. This isn't some obscure Russian electronics distributor. This is a company with deep military ties, a firm that proudly states its mission is to find the equipment abroad and deliver it in Russia, essentially a backdoor method for dodging sanctions. So why would a tech giant like Supermicro risk it all? The simple answer is money. Since the start of the AI boom, Supermicro's stock has skyrocketed. By March 2024, the company was up more than 4-fold, peaking at $180 per share, giving it a market value that shot from $4.4 billion to $67 billion. Supermicro wasn't just any company anymore. It was seen as a golden child of the AI revolution, a major supplier of AI servers equipped with NVIDIA processors, feeding the ever-growing demand from data centers and researchers alike. But there's more to this than just high-stakes international trade. Supermicro's troubles started surfacing back in August when the company announced it would not be filing its annual report on time with the SEC. This, as any public company knows, is a red flag. Investors were nervous, but Supermicro reassured them that everything was under control. Then came Hindenburg. In their report, they accused Supermicro of fresh evidence of accounting manipulation, a claim that raised the stakes dramatically. The Wall Street Journal soon after reported that the Department of Justice had opened a probe into Supermicro, looking into these allegations of accounting fraud, as well as potential export law violations. Now let's pause for a second. In less than a year, we've gone from Supermicro being celebrated as an AI high flyer to it facing accusations that could not only get it delisted from the NASDAQ, but potentially dismantled by regulators. But wait, it gets worse. Just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral further, Supermicro lost its second auditor in less than 2 years. Ernst & Young, one of the most reputable names in accounting, resigned, stating it was unwilling to be associated with the financial statements prepared by management. This is not a minor detail. For a major auditor to walk away with such a blunt statement, it indicates a serious lack of trust in the company's numbers. And what was Supermicro's response? The company disagreed with Ernst & Young's decision, claiming it was working diligently to find new auditors and stating that the issues raised by E&Y wouldn't lead to any restatements. But that response rings hollow in the face of the other red flags. Supermicro is already delayed in filing its latest annual report. It's at risk of being delisted from the NASDAQ, which requires compliance with strict financial reporting standards. And it's scheduled to provide a business update on November 5th, Election Day in the US, a day when it's notoriously easy to bury bad news. The timing of this update on Election Day is no coincidence. Supermicro knows that while everyone's attention is focused on the political arena, it can quietly slip this potentially damning information under the radar. It's a classic PR move for companies in crisis, hoping the noise of the news cycle will drown out their own turmoil. But this tactic only goes so far. The world is watching, especially now that Hindenburg's accusations have sparked a full-blown DOJ investigation. According to Hindenburg's research, Supermicro has been playing with fire for years, with alleged accounting fraud and troubling financial practices long predating the current Russia scandal. They claim there's evidence of sibling self-dealing. Essentially, Supermicro allegedly funneled money and resources into business dealings that benefited family members or insiders. If true, this wouldn't just be unethical, it would be a violation of U.S. corporate governance laws. It paints a picture of a company where ethical boundaries and legal limits may have been blurred for the sake of profit. But while the financial side of things looks ugly enough, the geopolitical implications are even more unsettling. Many of the products Supermicro allegedly sold through shell companies to Russia aren't just any tech components. These are high-priority items that the U.S. government has flagged as potentially dual use, meaning they can be used in both civilian and military applications. Imagine high-performance AI servers, the same kind fueling America's technological race, potentially powering Russian military infrastructure. That's not just a business scandal, it's a security risk. Among the buyers of these products is Niagara Computers, a Russian firm with ties to the country's top research and military tech labs. This isn't just another company. It's linked to one of Russia's largest supercomputers, housed at the Kurchatov Institute, a once-secret nuclear research center now under sanctions. This institute has long been a focal point for Russia's technological advancement and military research. Trade data shows that since the war in Ukraine began, Niagara Computers has received over $46 million worth of Supermicro's components. Initially, these sales were funneled through a California distributor, but as U.S. sanctions tightened, they shifted to Turkish intermediaries. It's the type of shell game usually associated with illicit arms dealers, not reputable American tech companies. And Niagara Computers isn't the only red flag. There's also Vanish Eco-Style, a Russian tech importer that specializes in dual-use components, parts that can be repurposed for military tech. This company received nearly $30 million worth of Supermicro products through a Hong Kong shell company, according to Hindenburg's report. Vanish Eco-Style doesn't even try to hide its mission. The company openly states that it sources equipment abroad to deliver it in Russia, effectively sidestepping international sanctions. This isn't a quiet operation. It's a business model based on finding ways around U.S. export restrictions. For Supermicro, these connections to entities under U.S. sanctions are an existential threat. If the DOJ confirms any of these allegations, the repercussions could be catastrophic. Violating U.S. export laws is no small offense. Companies found guilty of such actions face fines, criminal charges, and potentially crippling sanctions that could shut down entire lines of business. Supermicro's stock has plummeted by 45% just this week, a rapid collapse that wiped out its entire year's gains and wiped $55 billion off its market cap. This dramatic fall came not only because of the DOJ investigation and Hindenburg's damning report, but also after the company lost its second auditor in less than 2 years. Ernst & Young, the latest to exit, refused to be associated with Supermicro's financial statements, citing concerns over management's handling of financial data. When an auditor walks away like that, especially after replacing another auditor just a year prior, it raises questions that go beyond numbers. It raises questions about the integrity of leadership. Supermicro is now on thin ice, facing potential delisting from NASDAQ due to delayed filings, under the scrutiny of both investors and the DOJ, and carrying the stigma of Hindenburg's report. The company's survival is in jeopardy. What once looked like a rocket-fueled success story, riding the wave of AI demand, has become a high-stakes cautionary tale about corporate greed and global risk. If the DOJ confirms any of the allegations of sales to sanctioned Russian entities or rule-breaking exports, the fallout could be unprecedented for a company of this size. So what's next for Supermicro? Will it go down as a symbol of unchecked ambition at the cost of security and ethics? Or will it somehow manage to salvage its reputation? As the company gears up to release its business update on Election Day, this story is far from over. The world is watching, and the consequences could resonate far beyond Wall Street. Let us know your thoughts below. Please like and subscribe to help our channel grow. Thanks.